Wild Hearts' inspirations are obvious, but its unique high-speed crafting system creates a novel way to ground and defeat gigantic beasts. The easy line to draw from Wild Hearts, the upcoming hunting game from publishers EA and Koei Tecmo and developer Omega Force, is Capcom's Monster Hunter. Wild Hearts is a game about exploring large, open areas alone or with two other players to take down gigantic monsters that move around the map as you fight them. And the developers don't entirely shy away from that comparison, but they're aspiring to do something much more than just replicate Monster Hunter. The games share many similarities, but developer Omega Force has explored the genre before with a few games in the Tukiden series. In those games, like in Monster Hunter and in Wild Hearts, you hunt giant monsters to harvest them for material which can be used to upgrade your equipment. Despite their lineage in the genre, Koei Tecmo is quick to say that Wild Hearts is not an extension of the Tukiden world. They said, quote, "Unfortunately, there is no overlap. This is a completely new IP for us. We know that some of our fans were hoping it would have some overlap with Tukiden, but it doesn't. Wild Hearts and Tukiden, unfortunately, exist in two separate universes, but Wild Hearts has allowed Omega Force to pick up where it left off in the genre in a big, well-funded way, all while exploring an impressive crafting system called Karakuri that makes it stand apart. Wild Hearts has been in development for 4 years and represents an unlikely partnership between EA and Koei Tecmo. The former is an American publisher, known predominantly for its sports games, and the latter is a Japanese publisher that has had success with Dynasty Warriors, the historical action series. Wild Hearts is being published under EA's Originals label, which has birthed successful games like Unravel and 2021's It Takes Two. Despite EA Originals so far doing a good job of embracing the word original and publishing games you wouldn't normally expect to come from EA, it is still surprising to see the announcement of Wild Hearts. Playing it is also surprising in some ways, and not at all surprising in other ways. We were given access to an early build that let us play through the opening of the first few major combat encounters. The non-surprising parts of the game will be familiar to anyone who has played a hunting game like Monster Hunter in recent years. Movement feels similar, as does the basic combat of the tutorials. The layout of the world is also familiar with these large and dense, distinct, separated areas that can be accessed from the hub city, and each of those areas houses a few different creatures. All of that we've seen before. The process of felling one of these giant creatures, referred to as kimono in Wild Hearts, has a cadence I have also experienced before, but there is plenty that gives the game a unique identity, the main one being the Karakuri system. Karakuri is the crafting system, and in the fiction of Wild Hearts, it's a type of magic that instantly produces impressive pieces of engineering that you can use in fascinating ways. The first Karakuri you unlock is the ability to produce a box you can climb on top of that ejects you into the air. You can quickly generate multiple stacked boxes, scramble to the top, and leap. This is useful for exploring the environment, but it gets really fun when you're fighting a kimono. You can stack the boxes to get above your opponent and launch a devastating downward attack, use it to quickly get in the air to dodge an area of effect attack, or even create a barrier to slow down a rampaging kimono. Creating these devices is fast, recalling an expert Fortnite builder, and even during my short time with the game, I unlocked a collection of interesting ones that were helpful both inside and outside of combat. During my second kimono encounter, I unlocked what I would best describe as a bounce pad that I could use to both quickly fire me out of the way of incoming attacks or shoot me toward the kimono for added damage. After that fight, I unlocked this gigantic rope arrow that I could mount into the ground and shoot off into the distance to create zip lines to make traveling around the world faster and easier. Later game footage also showed walls to be used in combat, devices to let you glide from high heights, and a lot more. The other nice thing about the Karakuri is they are permanent within your world, as are the Karakuri placed by other players participating in your game, which, another added bonus, they're usable by everyone. For Koei Tecmo, crafting was an early idea the team wanted to integrate into Wild Hearts, and the first versions had you preparing the devices before heading out into the world or finding them along the way and picking them up and carrying them with you. Through iteration, though, they found it was much more fun to make the devices quickly in the middle of combat. Optimistically, the Karakuri system is the mechanic that I think will separate Wild Hearts from comparable hunting games, and I was really impressed with how quickly I was able to integrate the devices into all the combat scenarios. Wild Hearts' other major distinguishing factor is the design of its kimono. Omega Force's stated goal for its creatures is they be a combination of animals and nature, and by nature they mean like the environment. The kimono that have been shared, as well as the few that I fought, had clear, familiar animal roots, but they were covered in things like tree roots and moss. The kimono looked as though they could curl up in the forest and be confused for a giant overgrown rock, which makes them all the more intimidating when you wake them up and they start running in your direction. During my combat with the kimono, I used a standard katana, and I also unlocked an umbrella weapon that, when used correctly, allowed me to stay up in the air for short periods of time to float and dodge various attacks. There are 6 other weapons available in the game that will each have their own combo systems and finishing move animations. When you defeat a kimono before the battle truly ends, you have this chance to deliver one final blow with a fancy animation. Doing this ends the battle and also instantly rewards you with all the spoils of victory. There's no need to stand over the corpse and manually collect your winnings. Koei Tecmo sees this as a specific design choice and a distinguishing factor of Wild Hearts. They said they wanted the players who put their lives on the line to be instantly rewarded, when they succeed. Some other small details we learned from our time with the game and speaking with Koei Tecmo is Wild Hearts will feature an English dub. The footage of the build you're seeing here featured Japanese dialogue. Cooperative players will be able to drop into the middle of fights, and the main story campaign will take about 30 hours to complete, but there will be plenty of side quests to tackle as well as post-game content that will extend the game even further. Koei Tecmo also is promising full cross-play support and teased some light farming mechanics and some fishing mechanics as well. Wild Hearts will feel familiar to fans of hunting games like Monster Hunter, but I walked away impressed with how big a swing this game is from Koei Tecmo and EA and Omega Force. It doesn't look or particularly play like any game the developer or publishers normally release outside of Tukiden, and I am excited to experiment more with the Karakuri system. It's the mechanic that will help Wild Hearts stand out from the crowd, and I enjoyed the process of scrambling up a stack of boxes I built and leaping off the top to bring down a powerful blow on a rampaging kimono. I imagine I will be doing it a lot more with different Karakuri devices on February 17th of next year when it releases for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC.